So welcome everyone to the Eastside Freedom Library and our monthly showing of a labor history film. Tonight's film is Heaven Will Help the Working Girls. And this is a film that digs into the experiences of young immigrant women in turn of the 20th century New York. And as has been our practice, we're going to open with an interview with someone who's done historical research on the subject matter that's in the film. Then we're going to look at the film, and then you're going to have the opportunity, if you'd like, to make comments and pose questions, and our special guest will respond. And so our special guest this evening is Professor Nan Enstad of the University of Wisconsin at Madison, though she has deep roots here in the Twin Cities. And Nan is a professor of community and environmental sociology, director of the Food Studies Network. She's actually in the Ag School at Madison, but she's also affiliated with the History, Gender and Women's Studies, Afro-American Studies departments, and the program in Public Humanities. Nan holds a PhD in history from the University of Minnesota. She has recently published an award-winning book titled Cigarettes Incorporated, An Intimate History of Corporate Imperialism, won a prestigious award from the American Historians Association. And now she's here to talk with us, work that she dug into a long time ago, or somewhat a while ago, for a great book that she wrote called Ladies of Labor, Girls of Adventure. So welcome, Nan. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Zoom, for making it possible. So what led you to write this book in the first place?
Well, thanks for having me, Peter. It's exciting to be here. I was in graduate school. I was captivated by the labor movement. I was studying a lot of labor history, and I was studying these big garment workers strikes, low wage workers, mostly women workers in the early part of the 20th century. And I noticed that there were a lot of books about those that were really about their heroic, serious workers who, made these really important changes. And then there was this other work that was about Coney Island and the early movies and just the era of New York City, and the commercial culture. And I noticed that the workers were mostly between the ages of 16 and 24. And I'm like, aren't these the same people that are, these are the same people that are being portrayed a really different way. And you'll see this in the film too, that they talk a little bit about style and putting on style. But I wanted to know what was the mentality of the workers. So that's what I was really interested in, is I wanted to study the culture of the workers and try to understand what prompted that moment of going on strike and taking such big action.
So I think that a lot of us who might have come of age in the 70s, 60s, 70s, into the 80s, would have assumed that exposure to commercial culture would prevent young women workers from organizing unions and going on strike. But you discovered something different. What do you think you found in looking at this intersection?
Well, so I looked into the commercial culture. In particular, I looked at the trashy, they were called dime novels, the trashy fiction that people read, and the movies that they went to that were geared particularly for them, the clothing that they wore, how they changed that clothing, really looking at them as how they used their work skills. And so those were the kinds of things that I looked at. And I didn't find that it caused them to go out on strike, right? But I did find that there was a world within commercial culture that was more supportive of heroic, female action and collective action than I had expected, that there were kind of transcripts hidden in these popular culture texts that really celebrated heroism and aired women's grievances and encouraged them to dream of a better world. And so I tried to put those two things together and really look at the culture of a strike. And I think a similarity to today might be, you know, the huge Black Lives Matters protests that we've just seen. I think we're going to be trying to figure out for a long time, why did this happen now, right? Why did it happen now? And especially, you know, we've known about, there's been these protests for a long time that have been smaller. Why did these get so big? Obviously, COVID had something to do with it. And we also see a lot of, we also saw a lot of white people being involved in the Black movement in a way that we hadn't really for decades, right? What caused all of that? And I think that, you know, if we look into that and Beyonce isn't part of the answer, we're probably not getting to the bottom of it. So it's kind of a similar.
Well, and here in the Twin Cities, there's a lot of attention being paid to the interactions between Asian Americans and African Americans, the place of more recent African immigrants joining in the movements. So most of these young women that you were looking at were Eastern European Jewish immigrants or Italian immigrants. So what did you see of the intersections between the cultures that they were being or had been raised within, and then the cultures that they were being exposed to?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. It's like, where do we find places in our society where these really rigid barriers and boundaries can break down? And the workplace was sort of one of those places, but lots of times a Jewish owner would hire all Jewish women, and you know, or they'd hire all Italian. So it wasn't all, and then there were language differences. So, and then you're at a sewing machine, you know, working all day. So there were some places where, you know, people got to know each other across ethnicities at the workplace, but they also did that, you know, in the commercial culture. And I'll say that once the strike started, there's also a culture of the strike, right? So I just recently like had reason to look into, where were they going? The strike was in the winter. Where were they going, you know, when they weren't picketing? And there was a 4-story building that was strike headquarters called Clifton Hall that had been built by a Jewish settlement house worker named Lillian Wald, you might know that name, and that they had funded and raised money for, and that became the strike headquarters. And there, women of all ethnicities hung out together. There were translators, there were speakers going on all the time, socialist speakers in various parts of the 4 stories. There was a ballroom up on the top floor, so there would be people dancing. So there's also that sense of like, you know, and I don't know those stories out of Black Lives Matters as much, but I know that, you know, I have a friend who wants to do a project on Black joy, right? Like there is the very serious story about oppression and resistance to tell, but it is not entirely separate from the story of people coming together to create beauty, to love each other, and to create culture.
Now, there's been a tremendous amount of art created, and certainly visual art, but also poetry and other writing and dance. And so there is a great deal of expression.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that we wanted to show this film this month is that this month is the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the Women's Suffrage Amendment. And one of the things that we've wanted to do at the Eastside Freedom Library is push the envelope and say, you know, the dominant narrative of the Women's Suffrage Amendment really is a story of white predominantly middle-class women. How did Black women fit into that? And I've just had a wonderful conversation with Martha Jones about her new book. And how did immigrant women fit into that? So, I mean, the story that you tell in your book is largely prior to the war, and the suffrage comes immediately after the war. But what were these women thinking, saying about voting, talking about the concept of suffrage and the desire to participate in political life?
I think that this story of the video that people are about to see is very connected to that. Immigrant women and labor leaders were very involved in suffrage. They were at all of the protests where people in the press would focus on the white middle class women more. So they were definitely, the Women's Trade Union League was already a coalitional group between working class immigrant women and middle class women. And that meant that there was already a channel for immigrant women to not just participate in suffrage, but to be leaders in suffrage. So labor leaders were part of that. And these immigrant women were very focused on citizenship and being Americans. Even Italian women who were, many of whom their families had plans to potentially go back to Italy when things got better for them. The younger generation had been, some of them had been born in this country, so they were citizens. And some of them who had arrived as children were wanting to naturalize. And so there was a lot of activity around citizenship. What does that mean? And how do we express that? And a lot of energy around a kind of working class feminism that was really like, we deserve a voice. So deserving a voice in the workplace was seen as hand in hand with the deserving a voice in the larger culture. Yeah, and it's been a pet peeve of mine that as the suffrage conversation goes on, that the place of labor in suffrage is just the labor movement in suffrage has not really been coming out.
Great. So last question before we go to the film. So what do you think, we like to promote the idea of having a conversation between the past and the present. So what does this past have to bring to our conversations in this present moment?
I think one of the really core things is thinking about the history of low-wage workers, right? And that's really an issue for us right now that is incredibly heightened because of COVID-19, the vulnerability of low-wage workers, and then as now, a lot of women as low-wage workers, majority women in those categories. I was just on a Zoom watching the Fight for 15 panel talking about that. So these issues that you're about to hear about, even the sweatshops are back, right? So the sweatshops went away for a while because of regulation, they're back. So these kinds of garment sweatshop conditions are still a problem, but we also see these kinds of issues all across our society as more and more people are falling into a low-wage category. So I think that's a huge thing. The other thing is, this is really the early labor movement and the suffrage movement are the two origins of the protest movement in conjunction with, sort of the long civil rights movement of African Americans. This is the origins of our protest movement. And so the kind of picketing that women were doing, it looks normal to us now, but I wanted the readers, or the viewers rather, to know that, like, you'll see pictures of the women holding the picket signs. That was radical at the time, to be out in public as a woman, carrying a sign, getting in people's faces. And one thing that I'll be happy to chat with people about is the methods that they used were a little bit more in your face than this video suggests. So they were a little bit more confrontational. Yeah, so we could talk about that. But
Great.
those two things.
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nan. And thank you all for watching. Stick with us through the film. Feel free to lob questions through the comment function on Facebook and YouTube as you're watching or after you're done, and we'll try to respond. So thank you very much, Nan Enstad. And here we go with Heaven Will Protect the Working Girl. Thank you.
only got 2 tickets for me.
You count the bundles, you'll see.
I got time for this, Michigas. You get paid for 2 bundles.
I did the work, you know it.
I don't know nothing but that you don't got a ticket.
You saw me turn in that bundle of wastes.
No ticket, no pay. That's all I know.
If we had a union here...
No ticket, no pay.
Thief!
You better watch that mouth.
Got it.
If you know what's good for you, Ida, you'll go back to your seat.
Is this yours? I found it on the floor.
Thanks.
The boss makes the tickets small, so they'll be easy to lose.
That was the first time we talked. They put an Italian next to a Jew, and they think that will keep us apart. At 6? Well, 6:15, actually. You know the boss. He was chepping the clock again. Anyway, at 6:15, I suggested we go home together. Angelica said she couldn't. I saw a boy walking her home.
markings, medallions, insertions, and sleeves. They're parts of a shirtwaist sure to please the up-to-date woman, the woman of ease, the girl a la Gibson, the magazine tease. But in this era of independence and chores, every working girl can afford a fashionable waist for $1 or more. A sensible blouse to match your old skirt. A change of ensemble. It serves to work as a glamorous illusion amidst the sleaze of city streets, offices, and factories. In sateen and brilliantine, affordable waists are there for girls with budgets debased. And silk's on sale if one mind's not much, missing a week or two of lunch.
I make stories in my mind while I'm working. I think, where's this waist going to? What kind of person's going to wear it? Is she in good health? Is she going to be careful? Is she going to keep it well? And it's nice, you know? Like you're creating something, and someone's going to enjoy it. The waist ain't mine. I only made part of it, and got paid poorly for that. But you care.
Where is that girl? In the washroom again? Angelica! Wash your hands on your own time. But all I did was... Don't argue with me! That's the second time you've been in the washroom this morning. I've got my eye on you.
The forelady said a Jewish girl complained I was hogging the washroom. They put a Jew next to an Italian and then spread stories to keep us apart. We talk at lunch now. Half an hour to let out everything pent up since 8.
So, what's with this cutter?
What cutter?
Ida's a
Well, maybe I
socialist,
should say
but
something.
that don't make her no shirker when it comes to being dressed dead swell. She can go on a bit about the garment workers union, but her favorite subject is boys.
Come on, the one on the 12th floor. The one I seen making eyes at you. The one I seen talking to you this morning.
Madonna. Do you know what my father'd do if he heard I was talking to some strange boy? Any boy that wasn't Anthony? He thinks we're still in Calabria. Ida says Anthony's not bad looking for a brother. She'd think different if she had to have him with her everywhere she went. She don't know how lucky Jewish girls are. The only place my father don't give me la scorta, an escort, is at work, and he ain't sure about that.
I thought this was supposed to be a love story.
That's what it said on the poster.
I spent 5 good cents to see this?
I think it's a laugh.
You think everything's a laugh.
Ida, relax a little. Don't be such a nutmeg.
That's me at work. Invisible.
Are you kidding?
Pays $10 this week, minus half a day's wages. You was 15 minutes late on Monday, minus tax for 3 needles, tax for your chair, for electricity, minus 5 cents for benzene, 10 cents for the lining you lost, 5 cents for losing it. That comes to $7.53.
No, Mr. Robitsky, it should be at least 10. I worked overtime, remember?
Oh, you'll have to talk to Souls about that. Of course, she'll have to check with the bookkeeper, and he won't be here till next Wednesday.
That's all you got paid, Ida?
They find me again, Mama.
Ganavin. They should rot in hell.
Mama, I need more than 60 cents next week.
Your father's not bringing in money right now.
I need $1.
This I need. I need for what? For you to waste on a hat? To waste on a show?
I worked for it. I deserve it.
That's supposed to impress me? Do I get paid when I cook your supper? When I wash your clothes? Gewalt. And you call yourself a socialist.
Mara, I need for you to work overtime tonight. That goes for you too, Frida. And you too, Angelica. It's too bad you don't feel so good. You don't do the overtime tonight, don't bother to come back tomorrow.
I can't eat. I'm sick to my stomach. And I'm sick of that foreman telling me what to do.
Sick enough to go on strike?
And how do you think my parents will pay the rent? But no,
All I have to do now is mention union and Angelica hits the ceiling. Like I'm, goading her or something. Maybe I am. I mean, 3 shops are already out on strike, and there ain't one of those girls who's not asking the same questions Angelica is. How will my parents pay the rent? How will we eat? And I get angry because Angelica still don't see I have to take those risks. She still don't see how the union's about more than wages and hours. It's about dreams, too. Dreams and the time to live them. That's what the strike's about. That's what socialism's about. Stop this, Timmis, and come to the meeting tonight.
I liked it better when we talked about boys. What does Ida think? That I'm some kind of bobblehead? Una Samara? Talking about dreams as if I don't dream. All of the girls dream in the shop. We dream it's only for a season or 2. Then we'll do something different. We'll get married. An aunt will come and take care of us. We dream about that hat in the Grand Street shop. That show we want to see. Something just for us. We sit, we dream, and we sing the songs. The dream songs. The love songs. The whole day by the machine.
Singing. Angelica, that's 10 cents off your pay.
But I was only...
No, you know the rule. No whispering, no singing, no humming.
The clock
clock in the workshop, it rests not a moment. It points on and ticks on eternity, time. Once someone told me the clock had a meaning in pointing and ticking, had reason and rhyme. At times when I listen, I hear the clock plainly. The reason of old, the old meaning, is gone. The maddening pendulum urges me forward to labor and still labor on. The tick of the clock is the boss in his anger. The face of the clock has the eyes of the foe. The clock, I shudder. Do you hear how it draws me? It calls me machine and it cries to me, so.
Will you get a load of that, Ida? Hey, how do you think they do it, huh?
I don't know.
Oh, if I could only handle Morris like that.
Come on, it's only in the movies that such things happen. In real life, it's us girls that gets the smoke in our eyes.
Everywhere, Papa. This is America. Lots of girls go out alone here.
And what are they? Puttane, disreputable women. Where is it that you want to go?
A union meeting?
Basta!
But, Papa, didn't you tell me how your village stuck together?
Basta, Angelica!
Didn't you say you were strong because you weren't alone?
Forget this union. Here it must be la familia soprattutto, above all else.
Vi prego, just one meeting.
You will not go.
There's a union meeting tonight, Angelica.
There's a union meeting every night, Ida.
It's an important one. A lot of the girls will be there.
Why do you keep asking me, Ida? You know I can't go.
We're talking about a strike.
Again, Ida starts with me. But you know, this time it's different. I hear my father growling, but it's the voices of this life, away from home, that are speaking louder. And Ida's saying that the girls ain't talking about closing just this shop or one or two others. No, they're talking about closing all the shops. That would be something. So I feel myself teetering. I feel myself about to go to the meeting.
Die Ohrenschaft. Das Leiden und die Unsicherheit.
Mr. Chairman! Mr. Chairman, I am a working girl. One of those who are on strike against intolerable conditions. I am tired of listening to speakers who talk in general terms. I offer a resolution that a general strike be declared now.
Clara Lemlich, a little Russian girl of 16, wearing a pompadour just like any other girl her age, was the one who pressed the button. After she rose in a labor meeting and moved that the shirtwaist makers go on strike, between 20 and 30,000 girls quit work in New York City alone. News of more going out has come in from factories all over the East. This thing amounts to an uprising such as has never been known since woman entered the Garden of Eden.
We demand a 52-hour week with no more than 2 hours overtime.
You mean to hold out? You'll see. My boss, he says, "What's the matter with you? You make $10 a week. You ain't got no kick." If I ain't got no kick for myself, I got one for them girls he ain't paying but $3 or $4 to. You bet it's time we kick.
We demand the abolition of the system of subcontractors.
There never was anything like it. We've been signing up 1,000 new members a day at Clinton Hall. An equal number of men would never hold together under what these girls endure.
We demand that all strikers must be rehired by their employers.
Yeah, it's frustrating. The bosses hire sluggers to guard strikebreakers, and what can we do? The stalkers push us off the sidewalk, and we can't even push them back. Gorillas and prostitutes call us names, and we can't even say the word scab.
We insist upon the recognition of the union.
All right now, just you move along.
Within the last few weeks, some 75 women have joined the fighting ranks of the Shirtwaist Girls, but these ladies have never done more than wear shirtwaists. Most of them are college graduates, some of them suffragists. All have independent incomes. The public can't distinguish the college girls walking up and down the sidewalk from the strikers. But the police and bosses have discovered that whenever there's a scrimmage, a girl from the Women's Trade Union League is always there to see that the pickets have fair play.
Union! Union! Union!
What do these ladies know about my position? They're well-dressed and well-fed. They have money to live on. They don't have to work. But I know how the world is. If you don't look out for yourself, nobody looks out for you. I can't afford to give up my job. I support my mother.
Long live the union! Long live the union! Long live the union! Long live the union!
I guess we got friends, all right. The bosses ain't the only thing. Now the newspapers are paying attention to us. When they heard about real ladies raising bail money, I guess then they decided us girls amounted to something.
In unity is our strength! In unity is our strength! In unity is our strength!
Nobody cares about us, except when there's a strike. Now the bosses want to hire colored ladies for the factories, and all of a sudden the workers want them to join the union. Seems to me, whichever way it turns out, it don't matter much to us.
Listen, these women that ain't got nothing to do, they think it's stylish to butt in.
Down with the capitalists! Down with the capitalists!
Didn't I tell you to scram?
Ida and me got to the factory in the early afternoon. We started picketing, moving back and forth like we were supposed to. Then this great big fat policeman, he comes lumbering over to us.
Girls, that's enough.
He holds
Why
out
don't
his
you go
club
home
and he
now
barks,
and mind
"You
your
girls better go home and mind your own business." We followed the rules. We didn't say nothing. We just kept walking up and down, up and down. By the time the scabs began coming out of the shop, we were pretty cold. Ida caught up with one girl, and in a real quiet way, walking along, she told her the usual.
Sooner or later, you won't be able to take it no more, and you'll go out on strike.
"The shop is on strike. Won't you please join the union?" That sort of thing. The girl couldn't understand her, so I go up and start talking in Italian. We're talking quietly, walking along, when one of the gorillas comes up.
What do you think you're doing?
And he hits Ida right in the chest. She falls down crying. The police is there, quick as a flash, and what do you think he says? Ida's under arrest. Under arrest? I'm scared, but I hear myself say, "You can't do that." The policeman grabs my arm. "How about this, you little wop?" he shouts right into my face. "You're under arrest, too."
Hey, boys, look what Mike brought in.
Got 2 more stinking anarchists for the pen, Sarge.
Where'd you get those fancy togs, girlies?
Walking the streets. Where else?
At the station house, men pulled at our hats and coats and talked to us in a way that's impossible for a decent person to repeat.
Angelica, how many boys you live with? 2?
They threw us in a cell and kept us there for 6 hours.
I got something nice for you, sweetie. You know what I mean.
Right in with drunken women and prostitutes. Oh, the worst kind of women.
Wanna get out of here, Ida? Mend these trousers. Your friend, she can do something else for me.
To them, we was no different. To them, a working girl's just another tramp.
All rise.
They brought us into the courtroom.
Criminal
I
term
saw the
party
judge's angry face above the bench. I saw my father's, too.
You are charged with assault.
Your Honor, we was assaulted.
Be quiet!
I heard the judge's voice, but it was my father's voice, too.
You are a criminal, and you have got no more than your just deserts. God says in the Bible that by the sweat of his brow every man must earn his bread. You are keeping the girls from earning their bread. Your strike is a strike against God. 30 days on Blackwell's Island. Next case.
They took us away. Tramp, criminal, putana. The police's words, the judge's words, my father's words. I was so scared of jail, of what would happen afterward.
But what I also felt was like waking up, like waking for the first time. I had been arrested. I was going to jail. But strange as it may sound, Paradiso, heaven, had just opened up before me.
It was terrible. Beatings in jail. But also friendship. No, more than that, a new family. A family where we was all responsible for each other.
They used to say that you couldn't even organize women. They wouldn't come to union meetings. They were unreliable. They were temporary workers. Well, we showed them.
Working girls are usually too tired to think. The best part of the union, of the strike, was it made you think. 20,000 women started thinking, and look what happened. Now what if 1 million women should start thinking? What then? Can you imagine?